Thank you, Don, and welcome to the Thursday edition of Panola Pride. Our guest each and every Thursday, Ms. LeGrone. I missed you last week, so I'm glad to be back.
But I heard you all along last week.
Well, thank you. We were having a wonderful time.
Going on. I know you did.
We did for a fact. Well, we got a lot of business to take care of today, so let's just jump right into it. The Old Red cookbook that y'all were trying to get 450 recipes involved in is near completion with over 775 recipes.
Correct. Nettie Shaw heads that committee, and the manuscript will be sent to the company early next week, and they promised to have it back here by the 1st of December. So Nettie invites everybody to get an order in, because we're going to have big doings, what we call a tasting celebration.
Get a chance to sample some goodies?
The recipes and so on, some of them. And you'll hear more about that later. But this is going to be a real fine book.
If you need an expert taster, I'll volunteer.
You're a good taster, okay. I think we'll have some. The recipes look so good that it makes you hungry to work with.
That's fine. That's great. Okay, I see that the Panola County Historical and Genealogical Association is going to have a meeting at 9 a.m. Saturday for a very special event.
Correct. Saturday at 9 o'clock is set for cleanup upstairs, and all of our members are requested to be there with work clothes on and gloves and brooms and what have you, and good strong muscles to clear all of the upstairs debris so that we can set up our exhibits in the museum now. We're ready to go. We have workmen that are doing finishing touches to the building, and we need to clean it out now and set up the upstairs part. Of course, we've been operating the library for some time, but we're going to have this museum ready to go also. So
very good.
We have to do some cleanup.
Things are starting to fall in place.
Yes, they are. Sometimes you work for a long time and it looks kind of dim ahead, but it's brightening up right along.
Very good. Now, there's another book that we want to talk about besides the cookbook.
Yes, and that's this book that I'm using today for our resource material. This is the Panola County History book that we published in 1979, and of course it is out of print, and we're just having so many requests for it again. We thought maybe we ought to, in respect to the people that missed getting it when it came out, we ought to take another count and see. We tried that a few years ago, and we didn't have enough response. We'd have to have 100 copies made to get a reprint. We just could not afford the price of them in less than 100. And the price would be double what it was in the beginning, because since 1979, that's what's happened to printing. But we can get it. Our printing company guaranteed this paper for 200 years. Now, this copy has had hard usage, as those in our library have had hard usage. And I told them it had better last 200 years. I was going to stay around and see. And it is archival paper, and if we have a reprint, we will request the same. But it costs $35 when we put it out then, and it would be at least between $50 and $60 now. But we have promised some of the people that are calling and asking, is there any way that anybody will let one go? No, people don't want to let them go because they can't get any more. But if as many as 100 or approximately 100 people want them, we will move fences between here and North Carolina, where we had it printed, to try to get a new edition of this book, not a volume 2. Someday maybe we'll live to get a volume 2 and put new material in it, because there's a lot out there that's not in the old one. But the old one, it will never be changed. It'll be just like it is. And it is information on families and people in this county that's valuable from here on. And so if anybody that wants to put a name on the list, call us at the jail building, and the old jail building is 693-9928. on the telephone and to give us your name, address, and telephone number if you and how many copies you would like if we have a reprint. Or you can write us if you don't have access to get us by telephone because the library is not open all the time and you might not catch us there. So you can write us at the LaGrone Family History Center, 213 North Shelby Street, Carthage, and tell the same information, your name, address, and telephone number, and how many copies you'd like us to reserve for you if we have a reprint. And we'll follow your wishes if enough people ask for it.
Will it be necessary to place a deposit?
Not at this time. We need to take a count, and if we pledge ourselves to pay for 100 copies, then we'd have to have a deposit, yes.
Okay.
But not now. Just names of people that are interested is all we'd have to have to do some more investigation.
I think you're going to find that you'll have more than 100 that will be requesting a copy.
Well, of the book. I know from the way they're just begging us from clear across the country. How can I get one? Who would you watch to see if anybody puts one up for sale? And of course nobody's going to put one up for sale. That's, you know, your heritage is in it, and not another one to replace it. So that's where we are. We worked hard to get this book out, and people really didn't know what we're doing. And so a lot of them missed it. And they want it now so bad. And if enough people want it, we'll go to the expense and trouble of getting it done.
Provide them that opportunity to have
one.
Yes,
yes.
Outstanding. Okay, very interesting program today. Every program is always interesting. I don't know why I said that, but they are. They're very interesting. And we're going to talk about early Panola County courts and judges and...
Yes. I just said that we know the importance of our county court now, the decisions it has to make and how we find fault with them or how we boost them, whichever side of the issue we're on. Well, it's been important. The county court's been important from day one of this county. And I don't think we've actually talked about it and recognized the sacrifices and the time and work and everything to set up the life that we know today. And it is a result of these public-spirited citizens that have been our leaders through the years. When Panola County was first formed, of course, a lot of our ancestors were already here before there was a Panola County. They either were settled in the part that was Shelby or the part that was Harrison. First of all, we had Tennehaw District, which was a whole East Texas. Well, before that, a Nacogdoches area. Then a Tennehaw District that included all these counties. But when we got our Texas independence, Shelby was a mother of all of our area of East Texas counties. And as settlers built up sections, then they would ask for a county to be formed. Okay, Harrison County was next, and that divided Shelby into Shelby and Harrison. All right, then enough people got together along Sabine River, mainly at the little crossings on Sabine River. There was nobody living in the middle of this at that time, but they did petition a county here that later became Panola County, and that's when we were formed in 1846. All right, the villages in this area were along the river, as I said. Grand Bluff, Pulaski, and several other crossings along the river were the main villages in the area that became known as Panola County. Part of that area came from Shelby, and part of it came from Harrison, and it was the middle part between the two. Okay. One of those villages on the river became the temporary county seat, and that was Pulaski. Living over close to Grand Bluff was the Allison family. John Allison was the settler that brought his family in here and settled in the area near Old Horton community, and that was closer to Grand Bluff. But the people around Pulaski pulled it off to get a temporary county seat at Pulaski because there had been a court meeting there in Harrison County, you know, before Panola County was formed. So it had a little bit of pull, you know, to get it started there, but it was to one side of the county and was temporary, and a ruling from the state in the Republic of Texas forced them to have an election 2 years later and choose a central place, and that's when Carthage was taken. Okay. All of this organization had to be led and organized by the county court. Everything was under the county court. John Allison was elected the first Chief Justice. That's what he was called. And he was called Chief Justice until after Civil War. And I don't mean he was, but I mean the position was Chief Justice until after Civil War it became known as judge. But John Allison had his commissioners, of course, and they established a skeleton court. And it had a lot to do. We have the good fortune of having somebody, a person as a descendant of John Allison, bring us one of his big pictures to hang in the museum. Now, of course, we'd love to have some others of those early judges. We're still working to get all 12 of the sheriffs of the jail. This is part of history, and we are anxious to get that. But John Allison's picture is a good, old-fashioned, oval-shaped picture that we'll hang and be glad to have in the museum. And if other families of the other judges for the early days have pictures of their ancestors, we would love to have them in the museum. During John Allison's 2 years as judge, and that's all. Now, the first little history book that was done by the book club back in 1936 gave him credit for being reelected, but that was not true. Actually, he might have been reelected except for the controversy over the county seat. He was trying to pull the county seat to Grand Bluff. Mm-hmm. And so he was defeated as a county judge. I'd call it Chief Justice. It was what he was. And assisting him were local leaders in the various parts of the county. And they had to go through the forest, you know, just ride trails through the forest to go to county court. Pulaski was on the river, and the 4 sections of the county were represented by the commissioners. And this made up the county court. They had to blaze roads. Now, there was a road from Pulaski through to Marshall and to Shelbyville, and then there was a road from Grand Bluff to Nacogdoches, but there was no road through the middle of the county at all. And when this struggle for putting it in the center of the county came, it was a pretty hot political thing, and that's when Johnson Anderson offered the center here 100 acres to make a center if they would put it here. And so they had put it to a vote and chose to accept his 100 acres. And that took it away from both factions out there on the river. And we had a new set of county court. And this time, the county court elected, let's see, I have it down here, but I can't even read my notes, Thomas Davenport. He was the first Chief Justice in Carthage. Now, what did he have to work with? Well, he had some good men, understand. His court was, both courts, they did alert community men, you know, that knew of the communities and represented the counties well, but they had to start from scratch. Here they were, 2 years after the county was formed. This was 1848 now. That's when Carthage was born. It was in the middle of the forest. The only building here, anywhere near here, was a little 2-room shack. and that's around it is where they had the first court meeting. And they had to cut the timbers, cut the trees, and build a log courthouse. Now then, we never have found a picture, of course. Nobody had photography at that time of that courthouse, but from descriptions, Margaret Hillary did us a sketch, and we have it in the history book, what we think it looked like. And that first courthouse that served as a courthouse until a couple of years later when they really built a courthouse on the square. But that was a solid forest, the whole city. I mean, what we now know is Carthage. And Thomas Davenport was the one elected, and they had to blaze roads through the woods every direction because there was nothing but just a trail through. I mean, horseback or walking. And they had to cut the trees, and they ruled that if a 20-foot wide passage through, and if there were no stumps higher than 6 inches, is a first-class road. That carried wagons and buggies, you know, carriages, and ox wagons largely. And they, of course, had a busy time blazing the trails and opening roads in all directions. Now, settlers were coming in great numbers. They were coming by way of Grand Bluff, from Shreveport, from Jefferson, and all the way up that way. So the county was settling real fast. Some were coming by way of Logansport across the river there. So they had a busy time, but the same judge was not reelected after his 2 years. You didn't have an easy time pleasing those folks, you know. Everybody's sort of like my little great-granddaughters. Each one had his own opinion, and it wasn't easy to please them all. So some of these commissioners were reelected, but the county chief justice was not reelected. And in 1848, though Thomas Davenport had a court that was very effective, he was not reelected. And when the election came in 1850, by then they had a little courthouse right on the square, and all of that was paid for by opening up lots around the square. Now, I've been examining some land deeds and records of the lots around the square, you know, to see, checking them up on the area where the old jail is, but also, of course, lots are numbered, and the lots sold, and it was the little bit of money taken in from the sale of the lots that built the courthouse. And when they took the bids on that courthouse, the natives, of course, in the county bid on it, and the lowest bid was $250 to build, cut the timbers, peel the logs, and set up the courthouse, and the court said it's too much. And they wouldn't trade with them for $250. And they cut it to $200, and so the first one was built for $200. And they had a time raising $200. Well, $1 was a lot of money back then. It's a pretty good bit of money now if you don't have it.
That's
but,
very true.
Anyway, Andrew Robe was elected then, and he was very excited about being elected, but he didn't please folks either and very long, and there was a lot to do still, you know, getting road crews to work these roads. Everybody in the county was drafted on road crews, and so the roads were built by the neighbors. Mm-hmm. That's the way the first roads were built. And he finally just couldn't handle it, he thought, and he resigned before his 2-year term was out. And Henderson Pike was elected, I guess, by the court. I never have found exact records of how he was elected, but he was one of the leaders in the county anyway. And he served the last year of that 2-year term, most of the last year. But he was not then when they came up for election then in 1852. See, we're in Carthage now. And here Carthage is an old-fashioned town, 4 years old. And George Walton was elected. Now, George Walton was well, there were two George Waltons in the county, and I've done research for some folks on both of them to get the right one that they were looking for. But this George Walton has his name remembered out here in Delray community, and it's Walton Cemetery, you see, and all of that out there. Well, George Walton was the elected one in '52, and by that time, a son of the first county judge, Thomas G. Allison, was the commissioner for that side of the county. Now, that's the west side. Some things that happened to that Allison family in the meantime. How are we going on time? Nearly out, aren't we?
We're tight.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have a lot to say yet, but we won't say it all today. But anyway, they had moved and settled in Fairplay community. And by this time, the son of the original John Allison, Thomas G. Allison, became the commissioner out there. And from this time until later, when he was elected county judge or chief justice, he was active, and so the Allison family has continued to be active. But in '52, Walton was elected, but he was not re-elected, and Thomas Allison followed him. He'd already been a commissioner, and now he became chief justice. This was in '54, and it was during his time, and I think this is an important thing to emphasize, that he was determined to locate the free land for schools that was due this county. Now, Texas had all this land, and this was the beginning of public school finance. And of course, we have all kinds of trouble yet, but we still have that background of public finance that was based on the state lands. And each county had an allotment of land. And he didn't let that go any longer. He had it surveyed and located so that this county would have its background like other counties were doing in central Texas and so on. And of course, he didn't serve but just the 2 years there, but this was the mark he made. And from that time till this, I think you can go through the records and find some very important thing that was done by every judge that came in, because he had a dream that he emphasized. And I think we can see that in our courts today. They see something, and when they get to the court, they push ahead to try to bring that to the people. And this is what he brought the land for the schools, as well as, of course, all the other things that the court had to do. And that took some doing to get those thousands of acres of land surveyed and credited to Panola County. We might go on and on because we faced the Civil War judges, and they had a hard time. And then following that, of course, were the judges of the Reconstruction period that were appointed by the military. We'll talk about them another time.
Good. Thank you. I'm sitting here and just...
well, it's just a web that goes on and
It really
on.
is, and as many times that you and I have talked about the courts in the early days, we find new and interesting stories and facts.
Right. And we need to credit these people with what they've done for our heritage.
Thank you for sharing that with us today.
Thank you.